What is good, my fellow losers? So, as the title says, adaptive difficulty is as bad as everyone says it is, or something along the lines of that. Maybe I'll find a better sounding title. I explored adaptive difficulty, it sucks, I don't know. So yes, this is a complaint slash rant video, which is something I rarely make, if not ever. But I hate these changes so much, I really want to add more fuel to this ongoing dumpster fire. So, if you don't like complainy videos, click off of this video, go watch some cute house centipede videos, or really do something productive that doesn't involve listening to me. But for those of you whose feathers have also been ruffled by this sham, you've came to the right place.
Hey! Riot!
So for the first point, the removal of lower difficulties. That shit is whack. The removal of lower difficulties affects all players. For one, there are many players like myself who like to run the lower difficulties for some extra units. You can take a look at my nice unit stash right here. It's looking pretty good, huh? And I would say a nice sum of that just comes from auto farming the lower difficulties. Also, I almost never spend my units on anything, so that does play a role in here, but this was something I've always done ever since I returned to MCOC in 2019. I suppose Kabam took note of this and decided they were losing money over this, so of course they had to do something about it. Because I know I'm not the only one doing that. But besides that, I could also see how the removal of lower difficulties negatively affects newer progressing players. Okay, let's say a new player is doing their progressing things, and finally they've reached Uncollected, or Cavalier, or whatever it's called now. The thing is, there's invisible tiers to each progression level, and what I mean by this is a player who has just become Cav or Uncollected may have been skilled enough or threw in enough items to promote themselves to another progression level, but the event quest demand for said players may be too much for these players on a monthly basis. If this was the case, players would be able to complete a difficulty lower than them in order to still get rewards in order to help them be able to overcome the new difficulty they've unlocked. With this new update, players are now locked with their progression level. They have no way of lowering the difficulty and may not be able to get the rewards they were once able to, since they can no longer complete the new difficulty. But this is something I haven't proven. It may or may not be an actual issue, but if this does become a problem, I wouldn't be surprised. So this issue is more of a speculation one, but I could kind of see that happening. I could see this becoming a new pain point for brand new slash progressing players. And on to my next point, Elder difficulty is severely overtuned. Whoever designed this bullshit needs an immediate psych eval because they were most likely hurt as a child. Or maybe they just don't playtest their own shit, which is the usual, and it is the community's job to do it for them. Elder difficulty is the love child of pre-nerf Act 6 and Wheel of Fate, or rather, their aborted fetus that came to life. Classic difficulty was already a slog, and it's pretty stupid that we can't hop into Elder difficulty immediately like we've been able to jump into Valiant and Paragon difficulties from the past betas. They made those betas, took feedback, did nothing with the feedback, and decided to create this atrocity. But the minute I stuck my head into Elder difficulty, I took a look at this Joe Fixit just to see their stats, and to my disappointment, of course he has 1,000,000 health. At this time I didn't look into their attack values, but I didn't realize how high they were until I got to the Kingpin and noticed I was taking a lot of damage from Biohazard's bleeds. I ended up dying here. Let me just like poke into that real quick. Let's just throw our Strife in. Where is that Kingpin? Yeah, he's right here. Also a nice 1,000,000 health with 19k attack rating. So I didn't realize how high they were until I got here, and then I ended up dying to him. And I was using a rank 2 Sunspot, so I had to turn on Coagulate, which was my recoil loadout, and then I had to switch back to my other loadout. So there's a nice 70 unit tax right there just to complete this quest. But I'll get into the nodes in a little bit. Their attack values are at the level of Act 6 before any balance changes. Parries hurt, one mistake and you're dead. Like for example, in the skill quest, or no, the Mystic quest, there's a Moon Dragon and she 2-tapped my rank 2 Wiccan when I hit into her miss a little too early, and then she punished me for that. That really caught me by surprise, because like each hit did like 40k, and Wiccan only has like 50,000 health. I don't remember if I was boosted. I think they fell off and I forgot. But anyways, and then I'll pull up an image right here. This image I have here is from the initial Act 7.1 beta that also caused a huge uproar, but Kabam listened, and now we have the Act 7 we know and love today. Lore drop for anyone who wasn't playing then, but yeah, this Joe fixes health, however, right here. His health and attack values are higher than this Sabretooth. Granted, he doesn't have the fucking Mercy node, but essentially we have to fight 16 defenders with 1 million health, and it's unfun, boring, tedious, and frustrating. Combined with lag, dexterity, drop inputs, and bugs, yes, idols can't use relics for some reason, it's a complete fuckfest. Although I can do these fights, I simply don't want to, and definitely not on a monthly basis. For occasional hard content, this difficulty is fine, although not preferred, but I do not want to do Wheel of Fate every goddamn month. Fuck that shit. Next topic, the betas. There were initially 2 betas, the first being the Crucible style gauntlet, where you're stuck with one champ, which I'll refer to as Beta A, and the second being the team of 3 versus 3 repeating bosses, which I'll refer to as Beta B. Is that a race car outside? I don't know. Yeah, it's a sports car. ADHD kicking in. Personally, I don't like either of them, mainly because of the restricted pools, which I guess adds to the difficulty. Either way, the Overtuned health pool sucks more than whatever layout they would have ended up with for these quests. But if I had to make a preference, then I prefer Beta B, which I know is something most people would not agree with, but hear me out. The second beta at first glance looks daunting and confusing. I know when I first looked at it, I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do here? What is this shit? And the fact that we have to face the boss of each chapter 3 times is something I know a lot of players are not a fan of, and something I personally was not, I did not get behind at first. But at the same time, to piggyback from the previous point, I do not want to fight any of these bosses this month with their overtuned stats 3 times. I preferred this version though a lot more than Beta A, simply because it was more roster friendly. The first 3 quests were very short, making it not only easier but better to plan around, overall requiring less of the restricted pool of champions you could use. The fact that you could bring in 3 champs is nice, as I've seen people swap in a champ that needs to be healed with a 1 or 2 star, use a single raw potion to gain all their health back, and then swap back to a 7 star. You cannot do this in Beta A. I personally didn't mind fighting the previous bosses 3 times, since I saw them as practice, as I was able to test who would work against them and who wouldn't, since they were literally like the second fight of every quest, and then work my way from there. This did, however, suck with the Magneto boss last month, since there weren't too many options for him with the restricted pool, which in and of itself I despise. Again, just making sure you know, I do not want to face Silver Samurai and Moon Knight with these insane health and attack values 3 times. The main issue with Beta B is quests 4 to 6. Essentially, you have to do the quest twice, which is something many players, including myself, are not a fan of. At the same time, quests 4 to 6 were still fairly roster friendly, as you don't need as many champions to complete it compared to Beta A. Even though I strongly dislike running the quest twice, I still felt it was way less restrictive compared to Beta A. As for Beta A, I hated everything about it. I found it extremely restrictive, not Wheel of Fate level restrictive, but restrictive, okay? But to the point I had to use 5 stars and lower level ranked champions to benefit from the notes so I could get through. During my exploration of Elder difficulty, I was still using 6-star rank 4s and 5 stars simply because I did not have enough champions that benefit from the nodes. Clearly I am skilled enough to do this with lower ranked champions, but I still hate doing this. I still hate doing fights that and matchups I don't want to, because I still, even though I have a small roster, I still have champions ranked up that can do these exact fights. I just don't have enough of them ranked up. And it's like Kabam heard we liked Crucible and decided to put this champ swap shit everywhere. Personally, I hate them, except in actual Crucibles, but it seems like everyone likes Beta A, and Kabam took note of that, so we're stuck with this shit. But here's the thing, no disrespect to anyone who prefers this. This is not your fault. This is Kabam's. But I don't want to do Wheel of Fate every goddamn month. Needless to say, whatever they were doing in the betas was better than the shit we have now. The Overtuned Stats, for the most part, ruins both versions of these quests. Okay, moving on. So, the next topic, the nodes. They suck! They're outdated and they don't provide too much help, especially against these 1 million health pools. Some of them are fine, but the worst quest was the mutant one and the tech one, which is the one I have right here. I've already mentioned earlier how Biohazard would literally kill your mutants, so you need Coagulate to get through it. By the way, I also saw Normax's rant on this, and he showed how brutal the poison is from just one touch into the defender's block. It did like 20% or so to his rank 4 Havoc. Also, he and I pretty much share the same exact viewpoint for this area of the quest, and I'll link his video here as well. Add more fuel to the fire, yippee! And then the worst quest, however, for me was the tech one. First off, this chapter literally has 2 mutant defenders. This Toad right here, and then this Pyramid X. So yeah, this chapter literally has just 2 mutant defenders when you're being restricted to only the tech class. Great start. Then there's some awful defenders that you otherwise wouldn't use tech champions for, like this Sentinel right here. For Sentinel, I like to use a reverse healer, or not reverse, a reversal champion. Not that reversal champion, a power reversal champion, someone like Void or Nefaria, or maybe Deathless Thanos. Basically anyone who's not a tech champion. So yeah, and then at least he's the first defender, but my god was this a slog. 3-minute fight with my rank 2 star Spidey. Yippee. And then the worst part is a restriction within a restriction. A little inception here, because you're limited to using tech champions. The most fun part is you can't exactly use all of them. Woo! The beneficial node here wants you to use champions that can either power drain or have armor up buffs. Buffs. Emphasis on buffs. For the most part, I just wanted to use my Howard on every single fight, but I can't, thanks to this bullshit. And then, the funny thing is, some of the more recently created tech champions, like Bastion, Zola, and Jack, they don't benefit from these nodes. And I found out the hard way since I forgot Bastion's armor was a passive. So the problem here is that even for the bigger rosters who probably have these champions, maybe even at rank 4, they may not want to use them here and would resort to using champions they don't have ranked up, so they just settle using rank ones that benefit from these nodes, which is the problem I mentioned earlier with Beta A's format. It doesn't matter how big your prestige is, matter of fact, the bigger it is, the more tiresome it is. The Mystic Quest faces a similar issue. This node wants nullifiers. Similarly to the Tech Quest, the more recently released champions don't have a nullify. This wasn't too much of an issue for me, as I for some reason have a lot of nullifiers as 6-star rank 4s. But there were some fights I personally would use other mystics that don't nullify but would control the fight a lot better. For example, I was using a Shabbos for Rise to Power, and for those were such dry fights just because they don't have a nullify. From then on, the skill quest turns off willpower, so this turned out to be the quest where I used the most heal potions. But the beneficial node, that one works fine. The cosmic quest was okay, and science was the only one I did itemless. This is where I used my 5-star Count Nefaria to heal my health back, and then eventually I went back to the 7-star to heal more health back. And then if I had to rank the quests, ranked from worst to best, or I should say most painful to least, it would be Tech, Mutant, Mystic, Skill, Cosmic, and then Science. So I spent a total of 10 revives throughout the entire thing and a buttload of raw potions. I think it was like 90, which is way more than both the Act 7 and Act 8 Crucibles combined, and those gave way better rewards. If you're curious to wonder why I have so many heal potions, it's because like I just like to mess around in Realm of Legends, and then eventually I just have a bunch of heal potions in my stash that just expires. So largely I am just using expiring items. I would just end up selling them for like 400 gold, but you know, I guess the only good part of this is I get to use expiring items, woohoo! Oh, and since I mentioned both the Act 7 and 8 Crucibles, those quests have champ swaps that heal you back to full, which is something I would believe would significantly improve adaptive difficulty. I would love to see this changed. And then moving on to the final point, Prestige and the rewards. I've always hated how Prestige worked in this game, breaking up champs I have no interest or desire to play, just so I could help the team out. Prestige was one of the many reasons why I retired from competitive alliance game modes. The last alliance I was in was SSX, which by the way I miss the people, but obviously being a free-to-play player in not only a tier 1 war alliance, but a top like 30 or 50, I don't remember, Alliance Quest alliance as well. It's probably higher because I'm not there. Oh wait, no, because of the stupid change. Never mind. Yeah, everyone's prestige drops, so there's probably still top 30, but whatever. In SSX, there was a prestige chart someone made a prestige chart to keep track of everyone's rating, and obviously mine would be at the lowest, and there would be like it would be highlighted in red, like I didn't quite hit the mark, but no, they didn't shame me for it or anything. But I've always felt like I was the one holding them back. But they told me in order to stay, though, I would have to start ranking up prestige champions, and I liked none of them, but I knew what I had to do. This was back in 2023, during the time Relic Prestige was also fairly new, but I did not care about relics. I had no interest in ranking them either just for prestige, since I would have to use resources that I would otherwise use on my champions, like Glory and the battle chip token, whatever is it called, whatever the battlegrounds currency is called. I would prefer to use it on champions, and those are way more interesting. But that was just 5 champions and 5 relics, which even though sucks, it was kind of doable. 30 on the other hand is laughably bad, and day by day I just get reminded why I'm so glad I don't play competitively anymore. Even though this doesn't affect me outside of event quests, I understand the uproar of this move. It's stupid. I was at around 30 to 31,000 before this dumb change, and I'm now at 24,000. So I can exit out here. For adaptive difficulty, let me go to the rewards. I could see I'm missing out on, let's say, around this range. Okay, let's go for the max. I think let's say I was at 31,000. I don't really remember because I didn't care about prestige. Just looking at it, I'm missing out on. I can't even form a full 7-star StatCast relic. I'm missing about a nice 10,000 on 7-star shards, which is not the worst, but I would have liked those Titan shards. Tier 4, those are good too. Yeah, I'd be missing out on all this stuff, but stat values for the defenders sucks as is. I don't know how much worse 5 or 6 tiers above where I am now would be. But personally, I'm not really getting FOMO for this. Like, the rewards don't matter too much for me. I just want EQ to be less tedious no matter the rewards. Like, even if they were to keep the difficulty as is, but raise the rewards by, like, an insane amount, I would end up burning myself out and eventually quit this game. Because I think I'm one of the rare breed of summoners who actually enjoys EQ, since I do like reading the narrative that Kabam does hire a team to write every month, so I give them a chance. No, they're not Shakespearean-level masterpieces, but I do have my fun with them. I didn't read this month's, but I will when I complete the classic difficulty on the alt. I'm not doing Elder on the alt, fuck that. But I was more focused on trying out, adaptive difficulty. So I guess to eventually make this video. But last month was a bit more lore on the idols. We learned Solvark is like a universal destroyer of worlds, and he kept on bullying Lumitrix and Isophene for how much they sucked since they lost to us, just for us to beat Solvark too. There was another one where Dormammu, I think, was this the Nico one? I think it was the Nico one. So Dormammu learned how to speak squirrel. Stupid shit like that I have fun with and does enhance the experience of EQ. I'm going off track now, but all in all, I personally want them to revert this mess, bring back Paragon Gauntlet, bring back Beta B, and delete adaptive difficulty. Or at the very least playtest their shit. Hey, future loser here. So, all of this stuff was recorded the night before. Today, Kabam just released this announcement for the adaptive event quest, which is nice. So, I can sum up all of the points I've made so far here, but I'll start off by reading this. So, thank you for your passionate feedback on the adaptive event quest. We hear your concerns about its difficulty and are actively working on adjustments for next month's quest. Both classic and elder difficulties will be tuned to offer a more balanced and enjoyable experience. Yes, that's great. We're currently testing these changes to ensure they meet your expectations, and we'll share full details once they are finalized. We deeply appreciate your patience and commitment to MCOC over the past week. We know we haven't hit the mark with this quest or our user experience in general since the launch of this update, and we're committed to making things right. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So yes, they've heard we want changes now. It's just hoping they can make this right. But even so, I still have a lot of concerns. When Kabam refers to difficulty, I'm assuming this is the attack and health values. Well, this is a great change as this is probably the biggest issue with adaptive difficulty. It's only one of the many problems I and other summoners face, which was the overall structure of adaptive difficulty. If they keep everything as is and just lower the attack values, it's definitely not enough. So, what about the classic difficulty completion requirement? Are you going to make nodes that are more appropriate for the restricted set of champions we can use? Are the chances of bringing back lower difficulties lower than 0? Are we going to be able to come back to full health after swapping our champions? So many more questions, but you know, only time will tell. Personally, I feel monthly EQ should have a relaxed approach, pretty much like how it's always been, even before the betas and stuff. So yeah, just having this relaxed approach to fighting the brand new champions released every month, enjoy the narrative, and be appropriately awarded. It should not be this convoluted sweatshop of a mess it has become. But yeah, changes need to be made immediately. There's been an influx lately of why I quit or why I retired videos. I'm so tempted to add one more to the list, but I don't know. 2025 has been such a letdown and a stinker for this game. But this is their biggest one yet, yeah. So if they don't change anything, I can actually see myself quitting for good very soon. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. Let me know your thoughts on adaptive difficulty, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for staying this long. Take care and have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.